Creators suddenly go silent, disappearing from your feed without a trace. Burnout is real and a real danger, but you're in luck. We have some tips to help you avoid that and find long-term success on YouTube. Coming right up.
Hey, welcome to the Video Creators Podcast presented by vidIQ. You know how you put a lot of time and energy into your YouTube channel for not nearly enough growth? Yep, we get it. We are here today to help you change that.
Hello, creators. How are you guys? It's great to see you for another Video Creators Podcast brought to you by vidIQ, like we do every Monday for you. Today, we're just hanging out, sharing some next level strategies, helping you grow your channel, grow your business, and change more lives. I'm hanging out today with Ingrid and Blake. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing well. I've been quite busy lately, as has Blake, quite honestly, because we have 23 new YouTube coaches that have just started with us here at vidIQ. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. We got a lot of really cool people coming in, all different backgrounds. Yeah. I've learned a lot even just chatting with them. So I can imagine once we start coaching some more people, like you're gonna get a lot of value from them for sure. It's gonna be really cool to see.
All of them are creators, right? Like all of them have channels.
Yeah.
Yep, channels all the way up to over 1 million subscribers. Yeah, it's been fascinating.
So cool.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. A lot of diverse backgrounds, and just everybody. The one thing that I've noticed, regardless of the size of channel or just their history in general of what they've done leading up to this, so passionate about helping YouTubers figure it out.
So I know with the creators that we work with, a pretty common question I know you guys probably get all the time is, how long will it take? There's definitely a mentality of like, it's okay to want to know some of these things, but I think there is a sense of urgency. Have you guys picked up on that too with some of the creators that you've worked with?
Well, I feel like everybody wants viral success today or yesterday.
Yeah.
I should put it. Yeah. Yesterday might be a better way of saying that. And that tried things, been on the platform for a long time, or even if they haven't, they figure there's enough information out there, and why can't I get that now? And willing to do the work, and let's go. Come on, I'm ready.
Yeah. How do you guys?
No, go ahead. I was just going to say, I think it's part of today's society too. I think that just in the YouTube side, a lot of people these days are just wanting things now. And that's just, I think, because we have so much at our fingertips and the speed of things these days is so much quicker that YouTube forces you to kind of slow down, which we're not used to. And plus we see the success of somebody else and want to get there, but we don't realize behind the door how long they've been doing it actually too. Yeah,
I was just about to say, you see where they're at today, but you don't necessarily see the years and years of hard work. But I agree too. I think there's just a bit of a mindset too of like, well, I'm already doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing. What's the secret? What's the hack? What's the magic silver bullet that I need to just flick, snap my fingers and it's going to make everything blow up tomorrow, kind of a thing. So I guess I'm curious for you, like, how do you normally address that with a creator? Or if they say like, I want this to happen immediately, how do you guys normally kind of navigate that conversation?
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of truth to what Blake just said. And I think TikTok has really helped make that a bigger problem, I think, now for creators. And I really love how you also put that in a sense of YouTube forces them to slow down, because like people can figure out how to have viral hits and get all this following on TikTok or even on Instagram, right? Have things go really, really far. And then they come over to YouTube and they think, okay, well, I'll just apply the same things here. Crickets.
Yeah.
Right. Or they're shorts creators and they have all this success and then they try to create a long form video, nothing.
Yeah.
Right. So I think so much of this is really about remembering it's a phrase that we say over and over and over. YouTube is a marathon. It's not an actual sprint. And I mean, we've said it so many times that you got to fail forward on the platform. But I'm curious what that looks like for you guys.
Yeah, failing forward is such a... I always like to say that in a way that I'm not encouraged. Like, I think it's easy to get caught up on the failing. Like, but I don't want to fail. Like, I just want to win every time. And it even kind of plays into part, like Blake, what you just said, as far as YouTube forcing you to slow down, because, you know, you really have to... Like, YouTube is so good at surfacing good, high quality videos to more people and not surfacing poor quality videos to a lot of people, where in forcing you to slow down, I think it also forces you to make better content and make higher quality videos. So as far as failing forward, I think it's definitely kind of a journey for the creator of how do you make better quality videos for your audience and kind of for your channel, your niche, your value proposition that you're trying to achieve. What does that look like? And how do we measure that? So that's where, and I could get carried away with the analytics and everything like that too. And maybe we'll touch on that. But as far as what does that look like to fail forward, usually the more practically, the place that I'll start is, after looking at the channel and maybe digging in a bit, what are some of the higher areas of opportunities for improvement that we could really kind of double down on, if it's titles and thumbnails or video structure or something like that. And then how do we just try to implement strategies to improve them and just get reps? Because I think that's another thing too. I think after just talking about it, like conceptually, maybe even somebody listening to the podcast can hear that and feel like, oh yeah, well, that's great. I'm going to go fail forward now. But then there's no real roadmap, or, maybe the next video doesn't explode. And it's like, oh, well, I thought I was going to, implement this and it would be great now, but it really does just take a long time. So yeah, I think just kind of honing in on what that looks like and then failing forward from there usually is kind of a good starting point.
Yeah, I think there's all these negative thoughts about what failing is. I mean, I think, and not just, we hear that failure being a bad thing, I think, for a lot of times, but the older I've gotten, the more I've gone through life, the more I've seen what people have created, whether it be a channel or a company, or like even Elon Musk. Like, you can look at him trying to launch his rockets. Like, SpaceX almost went under because he could not get a rocket to properly function in terms of landing and all that. And I remember the very last try, they used every drop of money they have to get there. And anybody would tell you you're crazy, but the idea is he failed and learned and failed and learned and failed and learned, and like thousands and millions of dollars were at stake at that point. But the same goes in YouTube. It's, we have to be okay with the idea of failure. And that's what life is. I feel like it's a series of failures that have peaks along the way. And getting used to that mentality is what's going to be okay with it. And it's hard because I do see what people want from their YouTube channels. But I think what we get caught up is the mentality of wanting to have this big channel and being full-time as a creator, all these sorts of things, which are great products of the hard work. But the failing is what allows that to happen along the way. And it might have been easier to kind of get those views and subscribers, 10 years ago. But the reality is, where we are now, it's a lot more work. And even still too, I mean, look at TikTok, you mentioned TikTok kind of adding to that a bit more. And I do agree, like, it's easy to grow a following on TikTok. However, is that a dedicated following? And I've heard many stories of creators showing up at meets and nobody show up, even though they have 1 million followers. So it's the metrics kind of give everyone this dopamine rush, but they don't necessarily mean everything in the long run in terms of community.
I feel like people who don't like that whole failure mentality, fail forward mentality, have kind of forgotten where they've come from. Every single one of us learned to walk at some point as a child. I'm willing to challenge every single one of you out there that not a single one of you stood up on 2 feet and figured it out right away.
I
there
did.
Are probably a lot of times. No, you didn't.
I fell
Tim did. Maybe Tim did. Right? But that's the thing is, we as just humans, that's just the nature, right? You get right back up, you tweak, you adjust. None of us get it perfect out the gate. And I think there's danger if you do. If you have that massive hit on your first video, more power to you. What happens on the second? Mm-hmm. Now, all of a sudden, imposter syndrome comes in, and can you repeat that? Because you haven't learned any lessons along the way. I think the lessons are worth so much more than the failures. And that's how I challenge every single person to think about it. Write 1 to 100 on a sheet of paper, and I dare you, cross them out as you fail. Because by the time you get to the other side, if you even get there, right, zooming out and writing those lessons down that you learned, how you tweaked, how you adjusted for the next one. When you zoom out and you look at that, look at all the knowledge you have and how you can adjust. That's how all the biggest creators have done it, right?
Yeah.
None of them got it right. Years in the making, right?
Yeah, I would say, I think there's a bit of a misconception. Like if you make a bad video, it's going to like stain your channel, or the algorithm's going to turn against you.
Great point.
And it's so not true. Like every video performs individually of one another. And so if you can, and this isn't us saying go make bad videos, but maybe more like go be a student. And be a student of other creators, but be a student of your own videos too. Like if you are the creator who the first video did great, try to learn what about it made it great. You know, was it a title thumbnail thing? Was it an opening hook thing? Did I have a great call to action? What happened in this video to make it do well? And then how can you try to repeat that and not necessarily get caught even on like a topic level? Because that can lock creators in sometimes too of, oh, well, if I do any other type of topic, then it doesn't perform. And then I get stuck in this hamster wheel of making the same video over and over and over. You know, it's interesting. I know we talk about Mr. Beast a lot on this podcast, but it wouldn't be a YouTube podcast if we didn't talk about Mr. Beast every once in a while. But it's interesting even with him, like, you know, there was a more recent interview with him and Colin and Samir, and they were asking him these questions like, you know, you must be in your analytics all the time. Like, how are you making videos better and better? And it was interesting even for him, having been a student studying his content for so long, he's kind of at a point now where he doesn't even really look in his analytics. Like and like what you were saying, Ingrid, like he has made those mistakes so many times and has grown and learned from those things that he just really understands how to make a very high quality video. And he goes and does that. And YouTube is so good at surfacing the right videos to the right people and high quality videos to more people that it's just going to do its job well.
It's worth noting too that he is failing forward at this time, even in storytelling.
Oh yeah, and he's admitted to that.
It's a new muscle for him.
Yeah.
He talks about it all the time, right? And he was making great videos, but he wasn't telling a good story, and he knew that his videos could be better. So he is currently working through strengthening that muscle, failing forward. The word failing is not a bad word, right? And I think that we all just need to kind of embrace that mentality a little bit. Yeah,
I agree, because there can be a danger too of feeling like, but my content is already great because the information that I'm giving is the best information out there. And that doesn't necessarily equal a better video. So I think there can, and like you just said with Mr. Beast, he's still studying and still growing and still learning. Like we can always be improving, even if it's just 1% at a time and failing forward.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I think the biggest thing too is learning to enjoy that process too. Like he genuinely loved making content even when it wasn't getting views. And that's one thing I try to tell a lot of creators that I'm working with right now is they're on the same path. I'm like, hey, I'd love to get you to where you want to be right now, but the reality is it's going to take longer. But what's more important is, are you enjoying making videos? At the end of the day, like YouTube is a platform to share art, to share stories, to share visuals. Like it's a way to express yourself. And there's no right or wrong way of doing that. I mean, obviously there's analytics and people engagement, but you have to be able to enjoy the process of making content to make this sustainable, because it could be 5 years before you start seeing real growth. And that's just the reality for some people. But if you're not enjoying it along the way, you know, I picture that meme or that picture on Google where it's someone clawing at on a path on the ground, reaching for the diamonds, and they give up just before they reach the diamonds. Like it's exactly the same thought, right? But they get bored, they get tired, they give up. But the people who've really enjoyed making the content, regardless of the views, are the ones that I honestly see today doing the best because they just enjoyed the content.
yeah, there's nothing more exhausting than if you hate the process and you're just waiting for the video to explode. I think that creates almost a like paranoia too. Like you're always in your analytics, you're always just waiting for the subscriber number to go up, and then that usually can breed the, oh well, I'm shadow banned, yeah, YouTube is against me, the algorithm's against me, and that can just be like a really frustrating place to create from too. So even if it's not the entire video creation process, that could be something maybe just to make it practical, like if you were to pick out like what are the areas of the video making process that are life-giving and I actually really enjoy, what do I not enjoy very much, and then is there an opportunity to even hand those over to somebody else or outsource some of those things? That can also just give you a little bit more juice kind of for the long run as well.
Yeah. There's one thing I've heard in a podcast, and it was with Peter McKinnon and Sarah Dietschy. And one thing they chatted about was, and this is one mentality she used for a long time, was one for them, one for me. That way she's constantly thinking of the viewer and what they want, but realizing, hey, I need the joys at the same time. I'll make a video. And that could be a community style video for all we know, right? That's the same kind of idea. But that way she's making sure she knows that she has some sort of, not, I want to say balance, but she's managing both expectations of, I need to do this to have content perform, but I also remember that I love this and I want to make something that I also enjoy too.
And that shines through the camera too. You know, it's one of those unspoken things, like your audience will tell when this is something that you're genuinely passionate about and you really care about versus, you know, this is just me checking off the box because I have to make another video. I think that's kind of another trap that a lot of creators fall into as well. Like just making the video because your schedule tells you to. And if that's the reason you're making content or you're making this next video, you know, I would maybe try to push back into that too and ask, like, is there a way to restructure your calendar in a way where you could spend a little bit more time making higher quality videos versus just trying to hit a deadline week after week after week, because that gets to be really exhausting too.
That's one thing I talked to one of my creators right now, actually. She's in a place of the paranoia. I need to post a video every week at this time. It's like, yes, it's good to have a schedule, but I told her, like, consistency is not necessarily posting, it's working. So as long as you're working on your craft and developing that, the posting comes when it needs to come. Don't put the pressure of, like, I need that, because that way, like you mentioned too, if you're rushing content, you're going to feel it. The audience is going to feel it. But if we're focusing on consistency as I'm spending time working on this every day, whether it be a 3 weeks to make the video, it's going to turn out better in the end because I focused on the way it needs to be focused on. I enjoy it, and hopefully the audience will enjoy it.
That even makes me think of like titles and thumbnails, because that tends to be not for everybody, but it tends to be the thing that creators dislike the most, and it's usually the thing that's we're working up to the minute, and it's all right. This next video has got to go out tomorrow. We got to have a title and thumbnail, where really that should be like before you even shoot the video, you've got that planned. So that's really good. That sort of mindset of the consistency, like, yeah, of course, consistency with posting can be great, but more if we're consistent with our systems, you know, from a creation standpoint, and we've kind of got things set up in a way where we can consistently be planning our titles and thumbnails before we shoot. Like, that's going to make the shooting even easier. And then when the shooting's even easier, we've got a little more energy in life to do the things that happen after we shoot. So, that's a good word too.
I feel like, you know, this really kind of taps into like, what do you really enjoy about the creation process? And there's always going to be parts that you don't. And if you don't have the means to delegate to somebody else, then figure out that, like you said, system or process for yourself where you can maybe pick a day where you are doing the fun stuff. So, you know, that you can actually enjoy that part that day. Because I feel like that goes really far for creator mental health a little bit. Because if every day feels like a grind, if every day you're like, oh, I got to create titles and thumbnails today, you know, and you have that shoulder slump, eventually you're really going to burn out because it's just not fun.
Yeah. So you should just use ChatGPT. That's what you're saying, right?
Not at all. But I think that, you know, that does go back to the whole marathon and sprint conversation, you know, because it is a marathon and you can't, if you're constantly sprinting, eventually you're going to be really out of breath and you're just not going to be able to keep going. Mm-hmm. So, but if you pace yourself and you build in that time to where maybe that day you're only writing scripts because that fuels you, right? It's more of a filling your cup versus draining your cup type of a thing. Or maybe for you, that is titles and thumbnails. More power to you. And let me know who you are so I can hire you.
Yeah, seriously.
Right? But, you know, find those things that you really love about the creative process and build in some days where you can fuel yourself. I think it's really important as creators to have that. And, in regards to titles and thumbnails, they exist. We have to kind of, I think at some point, just recognize it's a thing. Don't make your job harder on yourself by ignoring the thing that's going to get somebody into your video. Maybe find a perspective or find a way to embrace that a little bit, because by ignoring it or having there be tension between the thing that helps you get the view, it's not going to be helpful in the long run. So it's almost like finding the joy in that in some way. I'm not really sure what that looks like, because it's going to be different for every other person, right?
Yeah, I would even add to that too. Like, if it is something that you don't enjoy, like making titles and thumbnails, for example, I think it's important to ask why too. Why don't you like it? Because I know for me, like, I am very much a perfectionist, and I get frustrated when I'm not good at something. So even for me, if it's like titles and thumbnails or another part of the process that I'm just not good at, I will save it to be the last thing that I do. I don't prioritize it, and I'll do it as fast as I can because it's frustrating, because I'm not good at it. So having realized,
set yourself up for failure by doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. So having recognized that, now I know, okay, right now I don't like it, but maybe this is a fail forward opportunity. Maybe this is something where I can be a student and I can learn, how could I just make it a little bit better next time? And then you're kind of, not again, that kind of helps you shift the focus away from some of these other numbers, like the subscribers and the things that can easily burn you out. But you've kind of got a little goal for yourself of, okay, I can make this a little better every time. And maybe I won't hate titles and thumbnails so much after just improving my own craft a little bit more too.
I love the way that you talked about that. What do you feel is one of the most important things that people do ignore and set themselves up, maybe not for a positive experience as a creator?
In getting caught up in the numbers and kind of finding yourself in a burnout territory, I think just seeing numbers is one of those mistakes, or one of those things that can be frustrating. I think it's easy to forget that you're talking to humans, you're talking to real people, and every view, every single one is a real person that you're reaching, and they're watching your content, and you're probably helping them in some way. So I think that's really easy to lose sight of, and that can be kind of a nice perspective shift too, if you're kind of finding yourself just in the grind. Just really reminding yourself, like, every single view is a one-on-one. That's another person on the other side of the screen that's consuming your whatever you're giving them, whatever value you're giving them is a helpful reminder. So that kind of helps to not get caught up so much in the numbers all the time. That's one of the things that I see, but I'm sure there's others. Do you guys see anything else that kind of leads to that as well?
I feel like sometimes, and I love what you said, because in my mind I was like, oh, so they're not a 1 out of 10 scale?
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
I liked how you put that, real humans, a real person. I feel like the longer you're a creator, you do kind of fall into the trap, or slip into the trap a little bit. Like you said, getting caught up so much on the numbers. What's my CTR? What's my this? What's my that? I need to focus on my AVD. I need to focus on my retention rate. I need to, all these little things, or like a task list. And you really do forget that it really is about, how am I reaching this viewer? How am I reaching my ideal viewer, my target audience? It all comes back to that, right? And I feel like the more creators I work with, the more I see sometimes getting, they stray away from their original ideal viewer, the whole thing that they've crafted in the first place. And sometimes it's, you have that hit and you go down the wrong path, right? And then you're needing to find yourself to pivot back to what you originally wanted to talk about. Or maybe you just evolve after 5 years and you're in a different place. So, like, what do you do to help creators that find themselves in those situations, that they've kind of forgotten who they're talking to? What are like some practical practical tips that you can offer the audience, the podience right now?
Audience. It's been a bit since we referenced the audience. I'm actually so curious if you guys have found this too. This has been something I've kind of noticed recently, and it's not for every creator, but actually more often than I would have expected. I see this. I'll go back and watch older videos, and they have so much more heart in some of those videos as far as delivering kind of a deeper why. They're a little more relatable. I don't know if it's like the rawness of some of them. And I think they're definitely, this is maybe a whole nother topic, but I think that when it comes to like growing as a creator, sometimes that actually removes a lot of the humanness out of your content, and it kind of makes you stray away from why you're creating in the first place to just becoming the most optimized creator out there. So sometimes even just showing a creator your older videos and saying, because, for another host of reasons, sometimes the older videos are the ones that have gone further. And a lot of times people will come and work with us because they're like, this video from 7 years ago is 1 million views, but I can't recreate it. What's going on? So it can be really helpful to show them an older video of theirs and actually point out, like, look how relatable you are here. Look at, you're delivering the why. You're delivering like a great value proposition here, and you may not have even realized it. So that's kind of a practical thing that I'll do sometimes, just show the creator an older video and just point out, this is missing from your newer content right now because it's so optimized.
Yeah, I like to revisit the value proposition a little bit too. I think people, and I have a story of this I mentioned actually to the coaches the other day, a creator that I worked with in coaching, and his was about mountain biking, and was so focused on trying to grow it and doing how-tos and views, and we started to like iron out his value proposition of why he started doing this to begin with. And it went from, well, I'm just creating videos for people who are interested in biking, to like digging down deeper to why he even started mountain biking. And we got so deep into that why that he actually left the program because he came back to me. He's like, this has been really helpful. I've spent because the story was he was a veteran, came back from being in the war, and used mountain biking as his escape to kind of deal with those things, and being in nature. It was just like the zen for him. And as we got to that point, because we wanted to relate to the viewer, he's like, I feel like I've lost track of why I started this to begin with, and was focusing on the views, that I actually want to take a break from YouTube and get back into my passion. So he left, but it wasn't where I expected to go, but it was good for me. I loved it because I helped somebody see their passion about why they started something. And that's kind of why I like revisiting the value proposition of, why does this exist to begin with? What are we trying to accomplish? What is the transformation we're trying to have for people? Why do you love doing this? Why do you love cooking? What got you into making food? The channel I work with now, he's like, I love food or meals because it creates community and conversations around the dinner table, memories, right? And kind of taking a step back and realizing that it's like, oh, I've been so focusing on trying to do the most face value things that I'm leaving out the meat of the content. Food, the meat of the content in terms of why this exists to begin with. So stepping back, looking at that has been a big game changer for a lot of people I've worked with.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like a lot of times too, when you look at some of those older pieces of content, or you revisit, the initial intent of the channel, who are the original people that we're looking to attract, or, what value do I bring? A lot of times those pieces of content, you were telling a story. And somewhere along the way, you got so hyper focused on optimizing the video for the maximum retention and maximum this and maximum that, you kind of missed the point, right? You took all the life and the breath out of the content, out of the story, in the hopes of maximizing the analytics and getting the most bang for your buck. And I think so much nowadays is finding the harmony between it all, right? Mm-hmm. Between the artistry and the data, where does that lie? And you got to remember to have some fun, because when you strip that out, then you're going to burn out.
I've even 100%. Recently, Colin and Samir were chatting to you a little bit about the focus on shorts. Someone asked them why they stopped making shorts so much. They said, it was fun to experiment with for a bit, but they realized it wasn't what they enjoyed. So they kind of just toned back on it and focused on the content they wanted to make. So even them, I think it's just being self-aware too. It's like, hey, I know where I'm, and this is a learned skill. I think being self-aware is not an easy thing for a lot of people. I think it's hard to kind of develop. but being okay when you're feeling like, okay, if you stop enjoying making the content, like take a step back. Okay, what is going on? Why am I used to love this. Now I'm not enjoying it anymore. What can I do to course correct this? And for them, that was like, okay, let's not work on shorts because while it's fun, I just don't see for me right now, the value in doing this. Let's focus on what I want to create that I feel like I can deliver more value in. So
I think this kind of goes back to a little bit of what you were saying about Sarah Dietschy too. Mm-hmm. One for me, one for them, which I feel like that's not probably a really great equation, but right, I think you have to have a little something in there for you every now and then. If it's every 5th video is for you, you might find that thing that really connects and it's a thing for you, and that's great. But I think that there is something about that balance, that harmony between everything in there. And I think it's okay to press pause on mm-hmm. things. I give you permission if that's what you need, but we all do. You can't, we've said it over and over, you can't break your channel. And if something's working and you need to press pause in order to focus on something else, that's okay. You need to change up your, publishing frequency because that's in your best health. That's in your best interest. That's great. And it's okay. Maybe that's something that we'll do here on this channel. You never know, because that's the intent. The intent here is to serve the audience. The intent also is not to be broken as you do that, So what's your intention? Figure that out. And really, I think, like you said, being a little self-aware. And if you can't be self-aware, we're happy to meet with you as well, and maybe point out some things that you can't see. Yeah, because sometimes an objective viewpoint can be very helpful, and that's not your mom.
Yeah, that's true.
She's just going to tell you that you did great.
Yeah, so if you do find yourself in that place where you just want an objective strategist to take a look at your channel and just hear a little bit of your story and maybe help you discern some of these questions of what do you enjoy about the creation process, and maybe what are some of these blind spots that can help you improve the channel but also not burn out while you're doing that, we would love to jump into a consultation with you. It'd actually be with me, so I would love to jump into a consultation with you. It'd be 60 minutes. We could just jump in together. I'll prep, take a look at your channel, and just help you kind of take the next best steps forward. So if that's something that you're interested in, go ahead and visit videocreators.com/consulting, and I'd love to see you there.
Every week, we love to leave you with a power tip, something new that YouTube's doing on the platform. And this week, I want to talk a bit about channel memberships, actually, and a cool feature they're adding in to that. So channel memberships is a great way to monetize your channel in a different way, offering perks to your community, private videos for them, something to kind of make them feel special and support you in the process. And now with the sign-up page for channel memberships, you can actually display some of the thumbnails from the content for those channel members, which is really cool. And even split into the different tiers of what the payments are that people can jump in and engage with those videos. It's a great way to highlight which content is for them and a great way to tease what they're going to get in support of you. So I think it's a really cool feature.
I absolutely love that feature. I think it's something that they've been missing for a long time. Thanks for listening to another Video Creators Podcast episode. See you next week. Bye.